And hello, golfing world. Welcome to thegolfdirector.com. It's Tech Talk with Al Cloy. Time for Dr. Grind to get in the house.
That's right. No mercy for the weak. If you're dumb, you better be tough, because the stupid will be punished.
You need some help.
Look at that.
Oh, seriously. I need some serious.
He hasn't even introduced me yet, but I can help you.
Thank you.
This is such a timely visit, Veronica.
It is
Bad, please.
We're going to set an appointment with you.
Bad, please.
It is.
I'm shooting the flare up over here.
I'm really encouraged that you think there's hope.
Well, I didn't say that.
I
I
didn't
just said
know.
we're going to set an appointment. Then we'll decide if there's hope.
Oh, way to go, Al. I want to introduce, it is our pleasure, distinct pleasure, to introduce Miss Veronica Karaman with us, peak performance coach, renowned author, a Duke collegiate golfer.
Yes, I see you're wearing Duke blue and white today.
Yeah, that wasn't the reason.
Oh, okay. We'll make it the
It
reason.
matches my truck
And your glasses.
and my glasses. I have different trucks for different shirts. Did
Do
you
you
know
have
that?
different glasses for different
Oh,
shirts?
yeah.
Well, you're the second appointment.
There you go. Hey, you'll be real busy around
I
here.
think I might
tell you
have to move to Myrtle Beach here.
I'm telling you what, you'll be real busy around here.
We just made her new life goals for you and I, Doc. You and I. Veronica comes to us. She's got her most recent book out, My Shot of Joy, and she has got a wonderful story that leads up to this. But Veronica, if you would, give us kind of your upbringing, where you started, and how all this ended up where it is today.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here. I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which is the site of this year's U.S. Open at Oakmont. And my father was a golfer. He was a weekend player and started me off in golf through putting. He handed me a putter when I was 5, and I would go to the golf course, and he'd go play for 4 hours, and I'd go putt for 4 hours straight. So I was either crazy or had a passion, but I just loved putting, and I would play in these national Pee Wee putting contests every year. That would be my summertime passion, to win these championships. And when I was 14, I was too old for the age bracket to putt, so the only way I could continue to putt was to take up the whole game of golf, which is I did. Played on the boys team in high school, was the first girl from my high school to get an athletic scholarship to college, which was the beginning of Title IX. So I played for Duke, had a great amateur career, played about 5 years on the Futures Tour, and started teaching. But I really loved playing golf and competitive golf and championship golf, and so was blessed to play in the 1989 U.S. Open. And so I had a deep career in performance, peak performance, whether it's academics, athletics. But when I was 40-ish, oh, and maybe I shouldn't have said that. When I was middle-age-ish, when I was
Right.
winding down my golf career.
We don't talk numbers here.
And winding it up, which kind of represented golf to me, my relationship with my dad. My mother was given 6 months to live with a terminal heart condition. She was 85 years old, and she always thought that game was stupid. She grew up in the Depression, and so life was suffering. And I always thought I got my athletic ability from my father. Well, during that time, I was getting certified as a life coach, because a lot of people said to me, you know, you're really good at releasing potential in people, and I was like, nah. Anyways, I ended up listening to them, getting that certification, and for the first time in my life, you know, I know how to achieve a goal. I knew how to compete. I knew the performance side, but learning to relate to people was a whole different skill set that I needed for my own life for balance and harmony. So when I was learning those, I felt my soul growing. I felt my personal growth as a person. Well, I decided to make my mom my first client because, you know, here she was dying, and we were emotionally estranged my whole life. So bought her dog, bought her cat, took her old folks' homes, but everybody was too old for her. And I knew there was an angle, because in coaching, you know, you always believe there's an angle to reach someone. So finally one day, out of exasperation, I just said, Mom, that's it. I've had it. Put your tennis shoes on. We're going to the golf course. So I hand this little old woman an 8-iron, and my mother takes a waggle. And I was like, Ma, where'd you get that waggle? I don't
She
waggle
just
the
gripped it
club."
and took a waggle.
She gripped it and took a waggle, and she goes, oh, that's how the pros do it. She takes. I
No,
guess
she didn't.
I guess she was watching a lot of Tiger Woods, but I don't even remember Tiger Woods taking a waggle, you know. So anyway, she takes a big old backswing, swings down, and pops that sucker almost 100 yards on her first try.
Oh man.
And you know, eyes wide
yeah,
open, and
yeah.
I'm like, you know how dog kind of goes. I said, Ma, I thought I got it from Dad. Like 40 years later, we're both catching Revelation.
At 80 plus years.
At 85 years old.
85
so,
years old,
you know,
yeah.
by this time, we're both wide-eyed, and I put another ball down. She takes her waggle, takes a big old backswing, totally natural. Whew, that ball goes flying another 100 yards. And by this time, my mom, who really wanted to die, all her siblings had passed or whatever, she looked at me with fresh fire in her eyes. I'll never forget it. And she goes, put another ball down. So that started my mother's golf career at 85. And she got in touch with her essential wiring as an athlete, and Mom was back. At 88, I helped her start a house cleaning business. She had her first paid modeling shoot. At 89, she started public speaking. At 90, I told her it was time for her first golf tournament, so it's never too late. And at 91, my mother died, my best friend. And there's a picture of my mom in all her glory. So see, folks, that's what you have to look forward to. And it was just a beautiful picture.
Look at that hip turn.
Of literally, we recreated her legacy.
Oh, yeah.
And that's all natural.
Everything's right there, yeah.
That's all natural. And you see those pink tennis shoes. She always used to tell me, I used to love to play basketball, but my stepfather made me give up playing basketball because it scuffed up my one pair of shoes. So I went out and I bought her those bright pink Nike tennis shoes. I said, I'm going to help you run all the way to your finish line.
Nice.
And we never knew how much time we had.
Right.
But it's so beautiful because I tell people the greatest legacy you can leave your kids isn't money or wealth, but the knowledge of who you really are. And that represents Mildred the champion.
Man, that's awesome.
know.
That's awesome.
And that led, this journey you took with your mom, that led to my shot of joy.
Yeah, it was really beautiful because what I saw is that there was so much wisdom from golf that went beyond just golf. Mm-hmm. And everything that I did to reach my mother's heart, I believe God showed me that the wisdom from that came from golf. For instance, when you play golf, you take your eyes off of one another and you're out on the course together. You have a shared experience, you have a common target, you have total ownership of all your swing and your decisions. And I realized that there were certain champion mindsets for relationships that I learned from golf. And one of the things that I learned was you can't change a person, but you can change the atmosphere. And so instead of trying to fix my mom and saying, well, you have to change before I can have a relationship with you, I basically said, if I change the way I relate to you, then you can change the way you relate to me. And I was about the business of creating the relationship shot that I wanted. Mm-hmm. Like if you come to me for a golf lesson and you're slicing, well, you don't teach someone how not to slice. You teach them to draw the ball. You teach them the opposite movement. So I was about the business of creating the relationship that I wanted. And I often tell her, you're not just my mom, you're not just my mom, you're my friend. So from now on, I'm calling you Mildred, And so I began to speak to her and to declare to her an adult-to-adult, present-day relationship that we recreated our relationship right in the middle of the mess.
Mm-hmm. And golf was your vehicle for doing that.
That's
yeah,
awesome.
Because what happens is that it was a shared space. And so so I always tell people, energetically, where do you connect with someone? And we'll say, well, one woman said to me, well, I don't have a great connection with my husband, but he loves to go fishing. Well, go fishing with him, and make a connection. And so it's beautiful because instead of making the other person conform to what I think they should be, finding those places, I call them in the diamonds, where you just naturally enjoy one another's company. And there's always that space and build from there. And it's really a powerful strategy.
It's interesting you bring this up. We have a fellow friend of ours, Jim Fellner, PGA professional, that was really for the 20 years plus I've known him, was a recluse. Mm-hmm. He didn't know how to talk to people. Mm-hmm. He was great at his job, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Super at his job.
Yeah.
But he didn't know how to relate to people.
Yeah.
And literally 3 years ago, he started playing with me every Saturday.
Yeah.
he would come to the house, get in the truck, Veronica, and we would ride an hour. Let's say we're playing Caledonia. Mm-hmm. We would ride an hour to the golf course, and he would never say a word. Mm-hmm. I mean, I just sat in that vehicle the whole way and not speak. And then we get to the course, and he would not speak, but he played phenomenally, and then we would ride home quiet. Mm-hmm. And one day I looked at him, I said, Jim, you got to talk to me. Mm-hmm. Bud, I says, we play golf together every week. Right. I want to enjoy the camaraderie of being out here. I don't care about the golf. You know, right. You're going to beat me. I know that. You're going to beat me. So, and at that point, it was like a light switch went on. Mm. Now I can't shut him up.
That's beautiful.
I can't shut him up.
That's beautiful.
Man, that's awesome. And he even came to a cookout we had a month ago. It's the first event that he and his wife has been to in 20 years. Wow. They don't even attend family functions. Yep. But he came to this cookout, and he stayed 3 hours. Mm-hmm. And we had to keep shoving ribs in his mouth to keep him quiet. And there were 60 people there. Yep. And he was just communicating with everybody. So I see your philosophy. I love it. I think it's great. Considering how far in the ditch I am, can you get me out of it?
Oh, yeah, there's hope.
She's a salesperson.
You've written multiple books.
Yeah, and just so everybody out there knows, just real quick, on Amazon, you can find her book. And ladies and gentlemen, it's got a 5-star rating. So we have a 5-star.
I didn't even know that.
Author.
Thank you so much.
Author sitting beside us, which is very, very impressive. So if anybody would like to go on, you can just put in the title, of her book.
My Shot of Joy.
Yep. Just get it up
by
here
Veronica
so
Karaman. And that's with a K.
Yep.
And pull that up and absolutely buy that immediately.
A couple really nice reviews, about mending relationships, that people have written. It's just all positive. There's nothing negative.
And if you like The Godfather and the Dr. Grind, we'll autograph it.
Which most people don't.
Yeah, that's right. Tell us about some of your other books, and tell us what is a peak performance coach.
A peak performance coach is somebody that helps you take apart the components of performance, helps identify them, and the processes that you need to engage in to have a result that is to your expectation or beyond your expectation. And what happens is when we look at peak performance, so many people don't understand how peak performance happens. Mm-hmm. All they know is maybe they set out to shoot 75 and they shoot 80 and they get mad at themselves and say, I've got to go back for another golf lesson. But we don't understand that there are 4 major components to a performance. There's the physical aspect, which is your swing mechanics, nutrition, fitness. There's the mental aspect, mm-hmm. which is champion mindsets. I mean, you look at those collegiate players that won. Right. They had a champion mindset. They thought a certain way that produced that result. And champions think differently than other people. For instance, champions have fewer thoughts than other people and can sustain them longer. Champions have emotional mastery. Champions can replace a disempowering emotion with an empowering emotion at will, which is why I say anybody can be a champion, because you can adopt the mindset of a champion and you can put that into practice. So if you know that, you can, what I call, go up your ampometer, your champometer. There's concentration. Like if you understood what causes someone to be in the zone, like we've all heard that term.
Right.
Well, what does in the zone mean?
Right.
If you can define it, emotionally, being in the zone is a state of calm concentration. So if you just know that and you go into your round and you say, regardless of what happens, I'm going to maintain a state, an emotional state of calm concentration, because that's where in the zone happens. So that's a part of that. And then there's the emotional part of disempowering versus empowering emotions. And then there's a spiritual part, which I call higher values, purpose, and identity. And so what happens is peak performance happens when you can define a process in each one of those categories and do them concurrently. That's the power of full engagement. So my approach to peak performance is very self-growth oriented. And when I help people to understand that paradigm and enter into it, they take a leap. So I feel part of my passion in life is to help give people a framework
Okay.
that is very personal,
Right.
and very personal in terms of goal setting of how they can go to that next step.
And it's not just golf.
Oh, no. It
It's-
works with
it's-
anything.
it's life. It's
it
daily
actually
life.
works
Exactly
with
right.
anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, even in the situation with my mother, it was, she was very negative. It was always why she couldn't do something. So I took her on the golf course one day and I said, look, here's a sand wedge. There is a hole 50 yards away. I want you to envision the shot. I want you to see the ball going up in the air and going down next to the pin. And she looked at me like she didn't even know that she could think that way.
Oh.
I said,
Okay.
just do that. So on the third ball, like she looked and she hit the shot and it went up and it landed about 3 feet from the pin. And she looked at me like,
Come on.
like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I
Yeah.
could actually think differently.
Yep.
So then she got home and she started, I said, Mom, do you remember the experience of positive thinking on the golf course? Yeah. Now this is teaching an 88-year-old woman self-awareness.
Right, right, right.
So she goes, yeah. I said, well, right now you just got negative. So from now on, when you do that at home, I'm charging you a $5 negativity penalty. And she laughed,
Well.
but she got it. Do
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? And so that's the idea of opening up people's minds to a way of thinking and a practice behind that to help release the champion within.
I love it. I love it. Let me ask a question. Like your Jason Day's current number one player in
what
the
I was just
world,
thinking about,
PGA
yeah.
Tour. He gets behind the ball after he's analyzed what club he needs or whatever. On every shot, he'll get behind the ball. You'll see him grab his glove. That's kind of like a tick, I would assume.
I call
That's
it a mental
a
trigger.
trigger. And then he closes his eyes.
Yep. Or blinks them rapidly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he for him, he's doing a couple of things. He's calming his mind down, I would assume.
Yep. That's exactly what I think.
But he's also visioning.
Yes.
Yep.
Well, he's doing two things there. I always tell people that mental toughness, people say you don't have mental toughness. Mental toughness is having a stronger internal voice than an external voice. That's what mental toughness is. So the way
That's
you
deep.
create mental toughness, well, that will come in the second appointment. But mental toughness, you have to create an internal mental fence to say the battle has to stay on the outside. I'm not going to internalize the battle. And so by doing this, the little
I've
mental
taught myself
trigger,
a lot. Yeah.
it keeps the battle on the outside. And then, the envisioning part is energetically, you just put yourself into that place of seeing the shot and experiencing the shot. And when you create that kind of routine, you can just go there more often. So whether you're an amateur player or whatnot, to know that you really have more power in terms of setting up to the shot and creating the shot that you want. Because I always tell people, we create our own emotions. For instance, there was a time I was trying
Yeah.
to qualify for the
That
U.S.
makes sense.
Open, and I took 6 months, had a sponsor. I hadn't played competitively in years. I went from shooting 80 to 69 in 6 months, didn't make the Open, and I was devastated. And I thought back, why was I devastated? I was devastated because I equated my success with an event and a score. So I created my own devastation.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
see what I'm
right,
saying?
right.
Yeah.
So it was.
Yeah.
So this is what people don't understand. So years later, I was thinking about trying to qualify again, which was my own personal yearly championship. And I was talking to my coach, and I said, I don't want to do this because I don't want to experience failure again. So we had a great relationship, and he said, well, Veronica, we are going to define success differently this time. This time, we're going to define success as fully engaging your heart in the process of preparing for a championship.
Wow.
You see the difference?
Wow.
It's process-based.
Yeah.
So I said,
Okay.
I can attach myself to that. I can fully engage in that. So, okay, U.S. Open qualifier, 36 holes in one day. It was equivalent of walking 8 miles. Okay, so I'm walking 2 now. So I've got to be able to walk 8 miles. I mean, I got really clear on my processes and what I needed to work on my swing and, learning the golf course and, all the. So U.S. Open qualifier comes around. It's 95 degrees that day, and I have a kidney stone attack, okay? Oof. So I'm like overwhelmed with heat, and I had to withdraw after the first 18 holes. Do you know that I did not experience one negative emotion? Not discouragement, not despair, not anything.
Really?
I was stunned because did I accomplish my equation of success? Yeah, I fully engaged my heart in the process of preparing for a championship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was congruent and had integrity with that. And when it didn't happen, because of the way I defined success from the start,
Right.
I was totally successful, even though I didn't qualify. And so that's what was really profound to me, was the way I looked at what I was doing, how I defined success from the start. So it was a personal growth thing, and there
Right.
was no disappointment. So when I work with, aspiring young athletes and golfers, and it's like, if we could train them in this paradigm and in this understanding, then, they'd be in a much better place of ownership of their stuff. I was the mental game coach at the Greg Norman Champions Golf Academy for a year. So I had 12, 17-year-old boys from Mexico. Okay, so
Right.
so I had a lot to work with, okay? Mm-hmm. So now these guys in those 4 zones, where do you think they hung out? In the physical, swing mechanics, nutrition,
Sure.
but in the emotional zone, they didn't have a clue.
Right.
They just experienced anger and whatnot.
Right.
So when I began to train them on, a paradigm for that and how to prepare for a championship and think about it differently, then they were able to mature and form those champion mindsets. And so when I teach people that, I had one girl came to me, she was shooting 88, she was 15 years old. Her father said she had no mental toughness. And I said, well, typical 15-year-old, you get on the first tee and you are what you think everyone is saying about you, right?
Right.
It's all the peer pressure. And of course, no one's saying anything about you, but so she had the state championship in 3 weeks. I had 5 sessions with her in 3 weeks, and I work a lot with identity because I think that's the missing piece in performance. I said, who are you as a champion? And I had her write out her declarations, who she was and what was most true for her. And so I connected her head and her heart. So 3 weeks, goes to the state championship. She goes from shooting 88 to 76 in 3 weeks. Has her career best and finishes 3rd in the state championship.
No, she didn't. Wow.
Man, that's awesome.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal.
So what I'm saying is it doesn't have to take a long time, but if you know the fullness of how peak performance happens, and then I always add, and this is a part where I think we have not graduated to. We have technology and we have, we have mental game and we have, swing coaches but the whole idea of identity, and so I really like to call myself a champion development coach, is to start people off with is the inner core of who a champion is and how you think about that. And that's the full package and the relational dimension, because parents have so much to do with how that child performs and they don't even know it. Like, I lost my first major championship at the West Penn Amateur. I was in a position to win. I was 1 up on the 14th hole. My opponent told me what my score was. It was in the heat of battle. And long story short, I agreed with her. I lost. I came home. I was devastated. And my mom was listening to it on the radio. They had televised it on, not televised it, but it was on the radio. And she was lying on the bed crying. So when I needed comforted, when I needed understanding,
you ended up comforting her.
I ended up comforting her. Well, I didn't realize how devastating that was to me. So the next year came. It so psychologically traumatized me without even knowing it. I completely forgot to send in my entry form. And what I needed at that moment was someone to help me debrief that competition so that I could take the win, move on. But I had no one at that time. So I look back on my own journey and I look at what caused me to have success and failure and what created, and I put that together in True Champion Coaching. So
wonderful.
I offer people that in personal championships and workshops to come to your club, or and if people are interested, they can just email me at Veronica at True Champion Coaching. Yeah.
Go back over that again. Email?
They can email me at veronica@truechampioncoaching.com.
Okay.
I've learned a tremendous, a lot just sitting here listening to her, because, the way I grew up, it's you're either first or you're last.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you're a champion if you're first. If you're last, you're a loser.
See, you're a winner if you're first. See what I'm saying?
Right.
But if you take it in the place of personhood, if this is who you are, so now it's like, I don't step up to the tee regardless of what I shoot, but I will always play from a place of victory.
Right.
Because I'm a champion.
I'm with
So you shift the way you define things so the outcomes can be different.
Yep.
And that's the beauty of a relationship based. And I tell the parents, I said, listen, your child's worth has nothing to do with their score.
Right.
And they look at me like in stunned silence. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but that's
I
a
said,
great statement.
It's true.
Yeah,
I
it
said,
really
I
is.
said,
It
what are
really
you
is.
raising? Are you raising a goal or a soul? What is it that you're raising?
Wow.
So if you look at the outcome of what you want
Deep again.
and work it backwards.
Wow. That's good stuff, Veronica. Well, as the golf director's new peak performance coach,
We'll set up several appointments for you, Joe.
we've got some work.
I'll put both of you together in the same class.
I think everything I've learned in my life's been wrong.
And Hugh and Jean are sitting back somewhere outside this studio. They are just going, oh, man. She has no clue where she's about to go. Thanks so much for
And
joining us
and
today.
It's a
It's been
pleasure.
such a pleasure
And I'd
having you.
love to have her back to discuss, her.
She's welcome anytime.
Her transition, from where she was at in PA to North Carolina and that kind of stuff. We got to talk a little bit about that in the break, and that's very, very interesting as well.
Yeah, yeah. My Shot of Joy, recommended reading. I would pick it up, grab a hold of it, and ingest what's written in there. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
It's not just golf.
Yeah, it's
This is
inspiration.
life stuff.
Yeah. I always say if it works for golf, it'll work for you.
Ooh, I like that. I want to thank you so much for
Tough
joining
as
us.
golf is, there's a lot to that.
There is.
Yeah.
Give us the website again before we head out.
Well, you can email me at veronica@truechampioncoaching.com.
Okay. Is there any other way they can contact you?
That would be the best way.
That would be the best way?
That would be the best way.
Okay.
Yeah. And I want to give a gift to all your listeners.
A gift?
A gift. If you will email me, I would be happy today to give the book as a free ebook to your listeners today.
Wow.
Oh man,
Could I do that?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Everybody, I highly suggest that everybody
Jump all
out
over
there
that.
take advantage of that because things like that don't happen every day. So
And I've got 2 or 3 of my friends that could use multiple copies. So they need it now. Veronica Karaman joining us today. We're so happy to have her on Tech Talk with Al Cloyd.
Big time.
Al, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank
it's good
you.
seeing you. Veronica,
Good to be here.
come back and see us
I will.
anytime.
Please.
I will.
Would love to have you.
Thank you.
I'm George Honeycutt. We're so glad you joined us today, but don't go anywhere. There's a lot more golf news and information coming up next.